Hello, everyone. This is Deanna Bartolini with Amazing Catechist, and I am here today to interview Bear Woznick. Welcome to the Amazing Catechist show.
Aloha, great to be here with you, Deanna.
Before we get started on the interviewing, I want to give everyone a overview of who exactly it is we're talking about. So here is Bear's official bio. Bear Woznick is a world champion surfer, certified ninja black belt, and a sought-after speaker. He is the host of EWTN's The Bear Woznick Adventure radio program and EWTN's motorcycle based immersive reality show series, Long Ride Home with Bear Woznick. Benedictine Oblet, Bear is the author of several books, including A Surfer's Guide to the Soul, Deep Adventure, The Way of Heroic Virtue, and 12 Rules for Manliness, Where Have All the Cowboys Gone, published by Sophia Press. You can learn more about Bear's Man Cave and Bear's School of Manliness at deepadventure.com. And Bear also has a podcast, which is also, you can see that on his website as well. And he has a YouTube channel called Deep Adventure. Additionally, Bear is also a certified catechist from the Diocese of Honolulu. So, wow, you bring a wealth of perspective and experiences to this, don't you?
Yeah, actually, I just want to say the YouTube channel is Bear Woznick at YouTube, Bear Woznick Deep Adventure. So
Okay.
people can go there. We have so many, we have over 1,300 videos. There's a lot of content there. So yeah, well, it's good to be with you.
So today we are going to be talking in particular about your latest book, which is being released next week,
Oh,
right?
it's just been released. It's been out
It's
now
just
for
been
six
released.
weeks.
Okay. All
It's
right.
number five in Christian's Men's Growth. So for books for Christian men, it's been number five. Been hanging in there at number five.
Amazing. Congratulations. And so the
Mm.
book we're talking about today is 12 Rules for Manliness. Where Have All the Cowboys Gone? Tell us a little bit. Why did you write this book?
Well, I chose purposely to say 12 rules from manliness, not masculinity, because that word has been co-opted. In fact, I was invited to speak at the Tampa Men's Conference this February, and it's going to be on Catholic masculinity. And I said, I won't come. Tell it like it is. It's manliness. The word man comes from the word virtue, where we get the word virtue. So that's the type of manliness that I'm talking about. Men that pursue the true good, men that lay down their lives in pursuing the true good, men that are men of their words. But I also like manliness because it provokes. I've been on some college campuses lately, and I've had professors try to cancel my talks just based on the title. 12 rules for manliness, where have all the Cowboys gone? I've had them sitting in the back taking notes, trying to, you know, stir up controversy. Isn't that interesting that just being a man, can stir up controversy?
Hey, then, that is very sad. That is really very sad. I will say, I mentioned to you before we got started, I did skim the book. I read, a bit of it, and I read the introduction, the conclusion, some of the chapters, and I was not offended at all. And
Hmm.
clearly, I'm not a man either. But you would think if it were so offensive, I would have maybe been offended, but I was not. Uh, so,
Well, no, love is not easily offended. We've kind of forgotten that in this culture. And the other thing is the subtitle is "Where Have All the Cowboys Gone?" My wife was a barrel racer and a trick rider, and so she kind of gives it that cowboy feeling. But I use a lot of Louis L'Amour quotes, the great Western novelist whose heroes always strove to be virtuous. They tried to live by the cowboy code. But interestingly, also, he was one of the first writers to really portray women as strong women. And so sometimes any strong person can find themselves in a vulnerable position. Hence the Louis L'Amour heroes. But I got to talk to Kathleen L'Amour, and I didn't need to, but I asked permission to use some of the quotes in the book. So it really gives it that cowboy flavor. We were riding from our home in Waikiki Beach up Diamond Head, and my wife heard a song, and she turned it up. She goes, "You're gonna love this song," and it was Paula Cole. And the words I heard her singing is, "Where is my John Wayne? Where have all the Cowboys gone?" And when we show up to speak, I speak a lot at men's conferences, but when we speak to to like a radio gala or something where there's men and women, before we can get out of the car, we'll have a half a dozen or a dozen women surrounding us. And their message to us is just tell the men, stop apologizing for being men. We need for them to be men. So that's why I say the women love this book too.
Yeah, I mean, we need to be who God created us to be and not
Yeah.
fall into that belief that somehow we're not okay
Hmm.
because, like, the world says we're not okay. You know, God made us for a purpose and a reason. And part of that purpose is embracing whatever gender we have, whether it's male or female. But
Right. Two genders. Well, you know that the Bible says man's made out of mud, right? That's different than a woman. She's more highly refined. She's like a fine wine coming from the man near his heart, you know. But a man's made out of mud and he's got to live that. You know, in Hawaii, we have a word. My wife always, Cindy always says, make sure you talk about this powerful word. The word is imua, and it means strength, but not just strength, but strength moving forward. When we lost Lahaina a couple months ago through that fire, uh, there was all these T-shirts were made saying Imua Maui or Maui Imua, Maui strong. Everyone rallying to Maui. You know, my dad was a deacon at the Catholic Church there, Maria Lanakila Catholic Church, the Mary Our Lady of Victory Church that withstood the fire. All the buildings were gone. All of the buildings gone, even melted to the ground, the metal ones. And the Catholic school was burned to the ground, but the church stood, and there was mass there just a few days later. So that's what we hope to be as men. We come factory loaded to be strong, to be heroic. The question is, will we rise to the occasion? And now you see with this cancel culture, and I hear this. This is what I hear men saying: "Oh, they're marginalizing us. Oh, they treat us like provincial buffoons. Oh, they make fun of us." And to me, that sounds like a very weak man. He sounds like a victim. The real word is to say, we let that happen. When men stopped coupling love and responsibility, when we started, when the pill came out and men began to say to women, if you really love me, you go to bed with me. You can't uncouple love from responsibility. And once that happened, we lost our place, our men. It wasn't taken from us. When you don't bring love and responsibility together, all you have is gushy feelings. You know, for God so loved the world that he felt all gushy, you know, and so it must be love and responsibility together. If you don't have that, if all it is sexual gratification or feel good feelings, then all you have is man boys. You don't have men at all. So we did it. It's not the media's fault. It's not the feminists' fault, as they like to blame it on. It's the men's fault because we left a vacuum of weakness and we took advantage of the opportunity. And so, yeah, it's time for men to be imua, strong, strength moving forward in virtue.
I think as I went through, there are 12 chapters in the book, and each one of them speaks to something that is important for a man to do, right? And you
To
make the
be,
point
to
in
be, to
to
be.
be, you make the
Yeah.
point in the beginning of the book that it's not a self-help book. So it's not
No.
a self-help book. What is the purpose? What does someone get out of reading this book?
Well, I say it's grit and grace. So many of the self-help books is here. You can make a lot of money. You can get physically fit. You can attract women. You can use women. You can negotiate. You can have a powerful business. But it's all based on just grit or just a selfish effort. But a real man, you know, I have a friend, Father Bryce Lundgren. You know, he's a Catholic cowboy priest in Wyoming. I helped him get his book published, The Catholic Cowboy Way. But in my book, 12 Rules for Manliness, there's this imagery of cowboy riding alongside another cowboy. And that's what Jesus wants to do with us. It's like he said, I won't call you servants anymore. A servant doesn't know what a master is doing. I'll call you friends. So it's in friendship with Jesus, personal relationship, times with prayer and study, that we discern God's direction and God's will. Plus, we're infused with God's power and grace and His joy. You know, I'm a second degree ninja black belt. You could call me a kind of a tough guy, but the guys that I know in that world, for the most part, very joyous people. big smiles, no tough guy stuff going on there. Because they don't have to act tough because they are tough. So they can be bold in the way they love people. The most just wonderful, wonderful people in that world. And that's what we need. We need men that exercise their toughness by showing love, by exhibiting the joy of the Lord. The joy of the Lord is our strength, not how much weight I can lift, you know.
So, is the book only for men?
No, I think we'll have as many women will buy this as will men. You know, my wife Cindy, you know how we met? I'm a world champion tandem surfer. That means I lift a woman when we surf. And we met. Cindy saw, I not won't tell the whole story, but she saw when we came to compete in Cocoa Beach, these men going out and surfing, the women paddling out in the front of the board with them. And then she didn't know what was going on. It was the biggest contest on the East Coast. She had no idea what was going on. She saw these men paddling out with the women on their boards, and she like, what's going on? And then the men turned and they caught waves, and then they lifted these women, 45 different, very extreme lifts. And what is the job of that man? This is for the women to hear why they'll love this book. The job of the tandem man is to lift the woman and protect her and to provide leadership because I'm the guy that's surfing the wave. So I'm the guy that chooses the wave. And I buy the surfboard. I'm providing all the men that tandem surf, they buy the board. Uh, and then the women we inspire, we need to be able to inspire the women to trust us. We shouldn't expect it, but we inspire that trust in them by how we protect them. I remember when so Cindy saw this, and we ended up meeting on the beach on a Sunday morning during a surf exhibition. And I remember took her out tandem surfing, and the first partner she had dropped her, and she was getting hurt. And I finally told him, "You're not allowed to surf with her anymore. Your number one job is to protect her. Then your second job is to lift her. You know, men don't lift women anymore. We should lift women and give them display." The beauty and the power of God is more beautifully displayed, I think, in a woman than in a man. They're just that's just their nature, the way God made them. And she asked me once, "Hey, did you have surgery on your back?" And I go, "No." And then a couple of weeks later, she asked me again, "I know you had surgery. I can see the surgical lines on your back." And I go, "Oh no, those are just slices that the reef has put in my back." Because when someone drops in on me and I have to drops in on me as I'm surfing down the line, I have to, or we're wiping out, I have to flip her and catch the woman. And then I jump off the back of the board. I'm leashed to my board. So I get drug across the reef. I get the laser cuts in my back. She doesn't, right? So that's the nature of a man. And I think women, um, it will help them to sift their thoughts about what a man is by reading through this book. It'll help them go, yeah, that's the kind of man, that's what I really believe a man should be. And oh, yeah, having said that, now I know a little bit better how my man's wired. So any woman, especially young women that are on their way to her, because when we go out and speak to women, Theology on Tap, the young college girls, I was on college campuses almost exclusively the last 10 days. And the women are like, when I say these things, women are like, yeah, yeah, we need men to be men. And then uh, um, they're just they want to understand what a man is. You know, they get it now, and they say, should I just give up and take any old man? I go, no, that's just going to make you miserable. You know what? When I go into mass, when Cindy and I go to mass, and we see these, especially the elderly women, but the ladies that are there 20 minutes before mass and they're praying rosary, that's an emua woman. That's a strong woman. And they'll say, what can I do for my husband? This, and this. I mean, I pray the rosary, but what else can I do? Well, pray the rosary. The women in the church, and they're especially these women that are there early before mass, they're the ones that are conquering the world by their prayers. And that's the most essential. But women will learn that a man is told by God to love their wife, but a woman isn't told to love her husband. You know, a woman is told to respect her husband. What gives a man love is the woman's affirmation and appreciation. Uh, and so women ask me, how do I help my husband to be strong? Affirm him in what you can and appreciate what you can in him. And realize in a lot of ways, he's the bow of the boat, you know, taking on, you know, heading through the water and appreciate his manliness. And he may do some things that annoy you, but focus on the good. But then, you know, pray for him and read this book. You'll get a better understanding of what a man is. 12 Rules for Manliness. I'll just say it again. That's the book.
So, do you have a favorite chapter?
Well, do you have favorite children?
No, my mother always says my favorite child is the one that's with me at the moment.
Oh, that's precious. Well, you know
Um,
what you know what people's favorite, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
no, no. So I don't know. I don't have a
You know
favorite child.
what people's favorite chapter is that they get the most questions is that a man needs to be dangerous. And I really think men have lost touch with that. There's a certain danger. I would say there's three types of danger that a man needs to be. He needs to be a spiritual danger. I tell them, are you the kind of man that when you get up in the morning, the devil says, "Oh no, he's up"? Are you that kind of a man? Do you pray? Do you spend an hour every day with the Lord in prayer? Rosary, mass, studying your faith, meditating on his word, reading good books, I think like this book or other books that cause you to have a conversation with God. We say in Hawaii, we see these guys that dress up like surfers, but when the big surf comes, they're not there. They don't paddle out. And certainly if there's someone needs to be rescued, a lot of them wear these lifeguard t-shirts they buy at Abercrombie and Fitch.
Oh,
We call them posers. If you're a man and you're not a man of prayer and a man of God's word, when the big challenge comes, you're not going to be ready to do spiritual battle. And then there's the other part of being dangerous, which is standing up, not just fighting the spiritual battle against the principalities and powers of the air, but do you stand up for the moral truths? Do you? We have men in the man cave where they've been invited to become a member, say, of the Pride Committee, and they say, "I won't do that for my conscience." They don't get fired, but they don't get any more raises. They don't get any more promotions. Are you willing to do the small things and the big things to stand on your morals? And then there's the third thing, and it's the kind of a book that a father would read with a son or brothers talk about with brothers. But are you willing to physically fight to protect your family? I think every man needs to have a strategy and a plan for that. Every man's made a little bit different, but like when I go out to eat with Doug Barry, my good friend Doug Barry, we always kind of wrestle for the same chair in the restaurant. We know which chair gives us the best view of danger. The good news is because we're both alert and aware. He's got my back, I've got his back. We can sit just about anywhere. But are you alert for danger? Do you know how to avoid danger? But if it comes right down to it, does a man know? Is a man first of all physically fit enough to handle last more than 2 minutes? Is he willing to do the unthinkable to protect his family? Uh, those are things that in the man cave, most men that join the man cave, they realize suddenly for every week we post, this is what my prayer life has been like. This is my spiritual life for the week. These are the concerns and questions, the battles I fought. This is what I did to be physically fit for the week. So a real man needs to be ready for real danger. So to be dangerous on all those levels, there's a lot to be added to that. Uh, and it's maybe not something we want to talk about more deeply, but it's something men need to have a conversation about. What are you willing to do? What are you prepared to do? What are you trained to do to protect your family? And if your family isn't there, nevertheless, if someone's going to take you out, they're taking out your family too. So there's all those different levels of being dangerous, and men love having that conversation. It really, it's real. It's great. That's the grit and the grace of the book.
uh, it's important that all of this is very much surrounded by virtue and by God's grace, because
Mhm.
that's how we are called to live, right? We're called to
Mhm.
live out the virtues, and we're called to live out that way by the grace of God. Because without His grace, I don't know where we're all going to be.
That's Pelagianism. We can't do it on our own. And plus, it needs to be all, all integrated into love, right? It's love and responsibility, but knowing what the real nature of love is, it needs to be. And our, I had someone ask me the other night. So I understand that our main purpose in life is to get closer to God and get to heaven. And then he was going to ask his question, and I go, no, I don't think that's our purpose. Our purpose in life isn't to get closer to God and to get to heaven. I think our real purpose is to love God. Just love God back. Love God because He's God, for the sake of God. And we lose track of that. We get all caught up in the doing of it, and we forget doing all the stuff and we forget who we're doing it for. And so anyone who writes this book, the essence of a man is love. Who's the gnarliest man you ever knew? Is Jesus Christ. And he showed us the way of love is to lay down your life for your friends, for even for those that aren't your friends, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. So some of these chapter titles, to know your creed, to live by your code, right? And then I noticed as I went through that you set out some codes there.
Mm-hmm.
How are we supposed
That,
to live? How is a man
mhm.
supposed to live? And so what are some other things, like ride for your brand? I like this. And I am so not a cowboy. I'm from New York City. We don't have any cowboys in New York City. So it's a little bit interesting for me to sort of put this perspective on. Um, but I've seen enough cowboy movies, right? It's okay. But just that sense of uh, writing for your brand, right? So it's about Jesus. It's not about me. It's about Jesus. Um,
Well,
and
let's go.
then
Let's start with your first comment. I'm sorry. Let's start with your first comment about every man. This is Louis L'Amour words said by Hondo Lane in the film Hondo and in the book Hondo by John Wayne. Every man's got to have a creed, a code he can live by. Though a creed and a code are different things. A creed is and I've had men and women interview me, where they have the man and the wife are interviewing, and several others where women have interviewed me, and they're saying they're reading this book with their husbands, and they've stopped and they wrote out their individual creeds. Because I mean, I'm wired, I'm made different. Everyone is unique. God made each of us gave us a unique spiritual rational. So although we have the same calling, we're human, we have that calling to love God, but our telos, our personal call, the very nature God gave us is going to be unique. So my personal creed is that the most radical quest a man can pursue is to abandon himself to the wild adventure of God's will. That's my nature. I'm a pilot, ran with the bulls, a skydive, sailing captains, scuba certified. Well, that's just the way God made me. Other men aren't called to do that. They've got different, they're wired different, they're made different. But within the context of who you are as a unique man or as a unique woman, define your personal creed. What is it that defines you? That is your personal end, your goal. And then from there, that should be on your wall, like mine basically is saying, thy will be done, right? When my son Jeremiah was surfed an 85-foot wave, I will guarantee you that he was abandoned to that wave. Once he dropped in over the corners of that wave owned him. That's what I mean. Abandon yourself to God's will, because when you do that, you get to see God do stuff. You're not in God's will. You can see, well, maybe God's doing something over there. But when you're in God's will, you know this, Dan, and you see it all the time. God inspiring a little thing in someone, or God doing something, or God moving in some way, or there's a wall in front of you and it disappears. When you're in God's will, you get to see God do stuff. But then within my creed of by the way, the most dangerous prayer a man can pray, a woman can pray, is the prayer, thy will be done. It's a danger to them. People are martyred for praying that. It's a danger to the devil too, and it's a danger to the culture around them, the culture of death. When someone says, "Thy will be done," but then to take that and parse that out and say, these are the rules, and these are only some of the rules, but these are the rules. There's 12 rules for manliness. I will live that creed by. So, like you mentioned, ride for the brand. When I had my place up in Montana, we were just there last week. They have this cool thing where when you drive by the ranches, there's two log poles and then a big log pole over the top of it. That's the entrance, and it will give the name of that ranch. And sometimes their brand, like the Rocking R or the Lazy T or whatever it is, and that's who they ride for. Well, as a Christian, do people know that you're a Christian? Do they know who you ride for? Uh, just in little ways. The other day, this is about 6 weeks ago now, I was golfing with my son and two of his really wonderful friends. And this fifth guy came up and said, you mind if I join you guys? We said, sure. Well, I heard him use the name of Jesus Christ as a cuss word a couple of times. And at one point, I was close enough to him, and he said that. I just pointed my putter at him, and I said, Jesus Christ, the only name by which a man can be saved. So he knew then who I wrote for. Or if you're in a situation you hear men talk disrespectfully about women, just say, I know you're a better man than that. Respect, there's ladies present, or you need to respect women. They know who I'm writing for. And then when people will put you down for being a Christian, but there's going to be this moment when things aren't going right for them, and going to come to you for advice, come to you for prayer, right? So ride for the brand. People should know who you ride for.
Yeah. All of this, it just points to knowing who you are, knowing who God created you to be, and then really to do his will, which, like you said, that is dangerous. It's very dangerous.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
when Jesus said the prayer, the disciple says, teach us how to pray. He said, okay, pray like this. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Then follows a very dangerous prayer. Thy will be done. I mean, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. That's a word of an invading king. Thy kingdom come. That's what that's what crucified that's Jesus, right? A very dangerous word. It was perceived it was perceived to be dangerous, and it is. Because when we say thy will be done, we're saying the kingdom of God will invade the kingdom of darkness, you know? And so, but it was a danger to him too, because it cost him his life. But as a ninja black belt, maybe the men will understand this, or get this. As a ninja black belt, one of my favorite things to do is to knife fight. I like to do that in the context of using a wooden knife, not a real knife, but it's fun to knife fight because you know where what the weapon is the person's going to use. It. They're not going to headbutt you. They're not going to kick you. They're going to use that knife. So you've already eliminated a lot of variables. So you really have an advantage when a guy has a knife in his hand. The other thing is, in a knife fight, uh, a black belt learns how to stage a fight. So he's not necessarily reacting. He almost knows what his opponent is going to do. So in a knife fight, I may give my opponent my neck, the right side of my neck, or give him my stomach by giving him an opening there. So I kind of know where the strike's going to come. That's what Jesus did on Golgotha. He staged a fight. The enemy's weapon is death. And I was doing this demonstration in Florida with a friend of mine, Gerard, and I said, I want you to attack me with this wooden knife, but whatever I do, it's a good idea if you let me do it, because otherwise your wrist will break. So as he attacked me, I did a certain wrist throw, and as he fell, the knife, you know, would have cut his throat, and he went to the ground, and I put him in an arm bar. I submitted him, and I had the knife in my hand when I was done. That's what Jesus did to Satan. Dying, he destroyed death. Rising, he restored life. Satan's weapon is death. Jesus staged the fight. Jesus is a dangerous dude. He's a dangerous man. And
he
when we
is.
say thy will be done as his disciples, then all glory to the Lord. He puts us in a position to win victory after victory after victory. And someone asked me, Dan, I'm sorry I'm rambling, but someone asked me, is there ever a time in life when you've been defeated? This was a couple of weeks ago, and he stumped me because I really had no idea how to answer that, because many times I've failed, but defeat is a different thing. And as a ninja black belt, our motto is, though the enemy hold his sword to my heart, I will prevail. So as a Christian, I may fail, but all I do, but the answer is just to die to self and live for Jesus. How can I ever really be defeated if Jesus has already won the victory? We may fail. Surfers fall more than little children. So just to encourage people, no matter where you find yourself right now, God is with you. And if you feel like you've reached the end of yourself, that's a good place, because then you can hear the still small voice of God and just say, yes, Lord, and reach your hand up like Peter did when he sunk underwater.
That's it. It's oftentimes when we reach that point, we realize how much we need God and how
And you've
much.
been there, haven't you? You've been there.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I,
we
I
know.
think I think everyone has, or
Absolutely.
if they're willing to admit it, at least. Not everyone's willing
Well,
to admit
and
it.
my greatest example is as a radio interviewer, you know this too. Those ladies that are there early praying before Mass, They've been through it. They could tell you stories. They're warriors.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. So again, having gone through not the whole book, but enough of it to say that I definitely think it is a great read and going to be very useful and spiritually edifying and help men to grow in virtue and to learn to stand up, to be men, to manliness, as you said, not this macho sort of, you know, chest beating kind of thing, but to be
Right.
who God made you to be.
As Paul said, I'm not going to say the whole verse, but at one point he says, act like men. And a couple of days ago, I was reading that scripture and I saw something I'd never seen before. It didn't say act like a man, it said act like men. So in the context of that verse is that men need brotherhood. You need to have the company of two or three other men that you have a vital, deep relationship with that are all going the same direction, where you don't just talk about politics or sports, but you talk about what's gritty and what's real in your life and encourage you and challenge you. And also, men need to be super careful who they choose to hang out with. That guy that was golfing, it wasn't my job to evangelize him, but I mean, I had that divine appointment with him. But you know, the way he talked about women and the use of his tongue, I just told my son, don't ever. I'm not. If he asks, can he play with us again? The answer is no, because I'm not going to hang around men like that. It's not on my. They're not on my championship diet. Psalm 1 says, don't hang around with scoffers, right? Choose who you're with wisely, but the friends are men in your life that you know who they are. You get into a tighter relationship with them and you pray together, and so that we can act like men, not act like a man, act like men, brothers.
Absolutely. Um, any final words about the book that you want to pass on?
12 rules for manliness. The one rule that I like the most is how a man treats a woman defines him. A woman, like we said, is not made out of mud like a man. She's a little bit more fragile in certain ways. And how a man treats someone like that, whether, it pretty much defines him. When a man speaks about a woman or treats a woman or abuses a woman or doesn't lift a woman, doesn't protect a woman, doesn't provide a woman, for a woman, it pretty much tells me everything I need to know about him. My wife knows my wife knows I'm a bit of a bear, right? She's got a grizzly bear and a teddy bear. I got my rough edges, but she knows that 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 I'm there for her 100% and that I cherish her, that I love her. In Hawaii, we have a flower called the hibiscus, and my mom taught me that flower is a one-day flower. It opens up in the sunrise and it closes up and drops off at sunset. And Cindy knows that when we walk along the beach during the day, I will look for either a plumeria or a hibiscus. Not every day, but most every day, I will give her a flower because our love for our wife needs to be renewed every day. And it's amazing how tender a woman's heart is, especially a woman whose heart is tender towards the Lord, and how we need to care for her gentle spirit and be aware of her voice, because a woman seems to have, you know what? I'll tell you something, Deanna, all the time, and I'll end with this. When I'm dealing with a business issue or a technical issue or a big issue or a small issue, and I just kind of seem to have hit an impasse, I will say, Cindy, will you please say one of your prayers for me for this? And I would say, before I can take my next breath, her prayer is answered. Man, recognize the gem that you have with you by your side, who's chosen to be with you, and give her the dignity that she deserves, and listen to her voice. She speaks the voice of God to you into your heart. And praise God, women are like kindling, they light up more easily with the Lord's love. Men are more like oaks, it takes them more time. And I'll just say, women, be patient with your men, pray for them, love them. But when the men burn, they'll burn hot and they'll burn all through the night.
Wise words and something I think that we all need to hear, the culture needs. So I greatly, greatly appreciate this book, and I think it would be a great addition, like you said, for fathers to read with their sons, or even families to read together, to set that foundation and to have that sense of who are we? where are we going? How are we moving forward in this world? Because I know that
Imua,
is
right?
part
Moving
of
forward.
what's going on there. So
Will you
thank
say
you very,
aloha
very
to your
much.
husband from Bear? You say aloha to your husband from Bear.
I will. I will do that.
Okay.
And I will drop links to all the things that we've talked about in the show notes there so that you'll be able to easily find Bear Woznick and all the great things that he is doing for the church and for evangelization. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you again.